This is the sound American cars are supposed to make. Big, loud, the sound of winning for 100 years straight. Now here's the sound of the car that's actually winning today. Nothing. A quiet electric hum. That's a BYD, built in China in about 18 months. Last year it outsold Tesla worldwide, and America barely noticed. The most powerful car industry on Earth is being humiliated in slow motion. Here's the part that should bother you. America invented mass car culture. Detroit built the assembly line, and the suburbs and highways that followed were shaped around the American car. For most of the 20th century, that car was the dream. And somewhere in the last 10 years, quietly, the country that used to get laughed at for cheap knockoffs started building cars that are cheaper and more advanced than anything you can buy in a US dealership today. America still builds cars like they're machines. China builds them like phones. I study industries for a living, and this is the one that keeps me up at night. The story everyone tells is that China simply bought its way here with subsidies. The real story is more dangerous. China didn't get here only by cheating. It understood what a car was about to become before Detroit did. But to see what China saw coming, you first have to see what America built. Because the thing that made America unbeatable is the same thing that trapped it. In 1908, Henry Ford took the automobile, a toy for the rich, and made it something a factory worker could afford. His assembly line turned the car into a mass-market object and turned Detroit into a superpower. From there, America got very good at one specific thing. Big, comfortable cars that ran on cheap gasoline. It had the roads for them, and the cheap fuel to feed them, and a culture in love with the V8, and that is exactly where the trap closed. When you're winning, you protect whatever made you win. America got so good at the gasoline car that it had every reason to keep building gasoline cars, especially the trucks and SUVs with the fattest margins. China had none of that history, and that turned out to be the advantage. It arrived late and felt no nostalgia for the V8, with no legacy engine factories to defend. So when the industry shifted toward electric, China had nothing to lose by going first. And the first thing it went after wasn't the engine at all. It was the thing about to replace it. Because for 100 years, the heart of a car was its engine, and electric cars quietly deleted it. The pistons and the gearbox, gone. The new heart of the car is a slab of battery running the length of the floor, and whoever controls that slab controls the car. China understood that early and built for it at a scale that's hard to picture. Imagine a battery factory the size of a small town, running around the clock. China has dozens. Two companies, CATL and BYD, together make more than half of every EV battery on Earth. 55.6% of the global market in 2025, according to SNE Research, with CATL alone near 40%. BYD even reinvented the battery, laying it flat into the floor in a design it calls the Blade, making its cars cheaper and safer at once. And it runs deeper than the factories. You'd assume the raw materials come from everywhere. They don't. One 2025 study found over 92% of the world's anode material, the graphite inside every battery, is produced in China, and making it in America costs far more. So an American automaker can design a beautiful electric car, but if the most expensive part inside it is cheaper and more available in China, they're fighting uphill before the first car is built. China doesn't just build the cars. It owns the chain that makes them cheap, and cheap, it turns out, is a weapon. You can see exactly where it lands the moment you compare what a car costs on each side of the Pacific. In September 2025, the average price of a new car in the United States crossed $50,000 for the first time in history. By December, it hit a record of $50,326. China went the other way. The IEA reported that in 2024, more than two-thirds of the electric cars sold there were already cheaper than the gasoline version. In China, going electric is the budget option. Then there's this car, the BYD Seagull. During China's price war, Reuters reported BYD cut its cheapest model to around 55,000 yuan, roughly $7,700. A real, modern electric car for under $8,000. That exact car couldn't land in America at that price. Add safety compliance and shipping, then tariffs and dealer markups, and the number climbs. That's not the point. The point is China built an industry where a car like this can exist at all, and America built one where it can't. So here's a new way to measure American prices. From now on, we count in Seagulls. That average $50,000 car? About 6.5 Seagulls. That electric pickup Detroit is so proud of, stickering around 70,000? 9 Seagulls. America's answer to the affordable electric car is 9 of China's affordable electric cars welded into one expensive truck. Just between you and me. How much did your car cost? 40 grand? 50? For that money, a driver in China is buying 6. And the cheap ones come with the big screen and the driver assist you paid extra for. You work the same hours that buyer does, maybe more, and you take home less for it. Hold on to that, because in a minute I'll show you exactly who built the wall that keeps the cheap option away from you. You'd think a car that's cheap has to be garbage. The reason it's cheap isn't corners cut. It's scale and the most brutal car competition on earth. And from the inside, that competition looks like open warfare. Reuters reported China has around 169 car brands clawing at each other, with only 14 holding more than 2% of the market. In a single year, 86 brands launched 327 different EV models. That's insane, but it's productive insanity. When that many companies fight to survive, they can't be slow. They cut prices and copy whatever works, and new features show up overnight. Here's the number that should scare Detroit more than any price tag. In the old auto industry, a new car takes about 5 years. You plan it for years, then tool a whole factory before you ship a single one. Reuters reported BYD can develop a new vehicle in as little as 18 months, and Chery can redesign a car for a new export market in weeks. So in the time it takes one American automaker to launch a single model, a Chinese rival can launch that same model, then cut its price and ship an improved version to 40 other countries. America is playing industrial chess. China is playing a video game on fast forward. And while Detroit kept winning the old game, the game itself quietly changed. For decades, one number sold cars, horsepower. Now it lives on a screen. The industry calls it the software-defined vehicle, a car that behaves less like a machine and more like a smartphone, one that gets better after you buy it through updates sent over the air. Tesla basically invented this game and owned it for years. Then China did what China does to everything premium. It made it cheap and standard. Reuters reported BYD started giving away its advanced driver assistance system, a package called God's Eye, for free. The self-driving tech Tesla charges thousands for in China, BYD bundled in at no cost. And here's what that looks like the moment you open the door. A Chinese EV in this class doesn't feel like a cheap gas car with a battery bolted underneath. It feels like a consumer tech product. There's a screen the size of a small television running the whole cabin. The voice assistant actually understands you, and the driver assist that Tesla treats as a paid upgrade comes standard. Climb a rung up the range and it gets ridiculous. The seats recline and give you a massage. There's a fridge in the center console. One model drops in a karaoke system, and another mounts a screen that spins from portrait to landscape while you drive. These are things Americans are trained to expect only in cars that cost twice as much. That's what Detroit should really fear. China isn't only making electric cars cheaper, it's making cheap cars feel expensive. Tesla made the electric car desirable. BYD is making it unavoidable. So if these cars are this cheap and this advanced, why can't you buy one in America? Because America built a wall. In 2024, the US government put a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric cars, which doubles the price the moment they land and effectively keeps them off the lot. The reasons behind it are real. It protects American factory jobs and keeps a flood of subsidized cars from gutting domestic makers. There's also the fear of depending on a rival government for the technology inside your own car. The Wall Street Journal reported Chinese EV makers still hit a serious trust barrier in Western markets like Finland, and that distrust isn't irrational. But a wall does two things, and people only talk about one. Yes, it keeps their cars out. It also keeps the comparison out. An American driver never gets to stand in a showroom and see with their own eyes that a car half the price is sitting right there. The tariff doesn't just protect automakers from competition. It protects them from the pressure that would force them to get better. Tariffs can keep Chinese cars out of American driveways. They cannot make American cars cheaper. And here's the catch: America can't tariff its way around. The rest of the world has no such wall. America can slam its door. Most of the planet can't or won't. Europe is buying these cars in serious numbers, and so are Brazil, Mexico, Thailand, Australia, and the Gulf states. The IEA reported that in 2024, China accounted for 40% of all electric car exports on Earth, around 1.25 million cars. Reuters reported that by June 2026, BYD's overseas sales had jumped almost 95% in a single year. Even if not one Chinese car ever sells in the US, American automakers still face those cars everywhere else they do business. Ford in Europe and GM in South America are already fighting Chinese EVs that are cheaper and updated far more often than anything they build. You can wall off your driveway. You can't wall off the world, so that's the case for panic. But the honest version has a second half that cuts against the hype. China's car industry is not a flawless machine. It's chaotic and probably overbuilt. Reuters reported the price war got so vicious that analysts fear a shakeout with too many brands and profits too thin to survive. It got bad enough that China's own government told automakers to stop the price cutting. When the referee has to break up the fight is out of control, and America is far from finished. It still has Tesla and real engineering talent at Ford, GM, and Rivian. It has the world's deepest capital markets and brands people trust. And battery plants can be built on American soil, work that's already begun. So the fair version isn't that America has already lost. China won the momentum. America still holds the capital and the talent to answer. The only thing it can't afford is to keep pretending the future is optional. Because in the end, this was never really a story about cars. America became the most powerful economy in history by doing one thing better than anyone, taking an expensive product and making it cheap enough for everyone. Ford did it with the Model T. The whole country did it across the 20th century. China just ran that exact playbook on the electric car, and America handed it the ball. So go back to the Seagulls one last time. The average American car costs $6.5. Detroit's proudest electric truck costs $9. And somewhere in China right now, a company is designing the next Seagull, and it'll be finished before the American truck gets its next update.